it's Stephanie from the internet. Also Life and Steph TV on YouTube and blissfulthinking.org on that website that I just said. Happy International Women's Day! I'm a woman and I'm celebrating today by wearing pants and owning property, which is where we are now, and not being in my kitchen. Yay, feminism! There are a lot of cool women that we could talk about all day today, and I could do that if you wanted me to talk all day, but instead I'm just going to talk now about a few that have been on my mind lately. I like to talk about presidents all the time, forever, but sometimes I like to talk about first ladies, who I think are a group of incredible ladies who are often overshadowed by the men in their life. So we are actually pretty lucky to be Americans for a lot of reasons, but also because we come from, or we're at the end of an incredible line of really amazing ladies. Some of them have been, like, obviously very inspiring. You know them. Some of them have yet to prove that they could be inspiring. You might know them too. That could happen. I don't know. Whoops, sorry. You know her. Yeah. But the point is, there have been a bunch that we don't talk about as often who are also really cool, and I hope today to tell you about some of those. So move over Hillary and Eleanor and Jackie O. Today we're going to talk about people like Dolly Madison. Dolly Madison, married to James Madison, one of our earliest presidents. In the summer of 1814, the British were moving in on Washington. They were still kind of annoyed about that whole, like, we don't want to be your country anymore thing, and they were burning stuff wherever they went. So they're coming to Washington, everybody's moving out. James is like, Dolly, we gotta go. And she's like, I don't know if we should, James. We should probably hold out a little longer. And he's like, you're right. So it's like 4 days into the siege, the British are continuing to shoot at things and burn things down. And finally, James is like, Dolly, we gotta go. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, we should go. But first, get that portrait. You know what that portrait was? It was a giant portrait of George Washington. You've seen it. It's the one where he's kind of like, that's my George Washington impression. My teeth are not wooden, so it wasn't very good. Anyway, she gets a 15-year-old slave to help her tear it down off the wall. It's like screwed on there really well. So she personally breaks up the frame that it's in. She was like a little lady, like just a little thing, and her husband was even smaller. He was 5'4", which is as tall as I am, and like 108 pounds, which is about 10 pounds less than I am. So there's that. The British are like coming, like they're gonna. She gets it out of there. They just barely make it out of there in time. The next night, the British are there having dinner on the White House with the White House silverware and setting everything on fire, which was kind of their thing. But what's amazing about Dolly is that portrait was 8 feet tall by 5 feet wide, and she was not intimidated by the largest man she'd ever seen, probably because James was so tiny. So she saved the father of our country and her teeny tiny husband. Amazing, Dolly. The next first lady I want to talk about is Frances Folsom Cleveland. This is Frances. She's kind of a babe, famous for being that. The thing about Frances is that I don't know if I want to, like, admire her or be a little bit weirded out by her. Because, okay, let me tell you about Frances. When she was born, her father had a 27-year-old law partner who came over, like, pretty soon after her birth, bought her a baby carriage, just thought she was great, thought she was a real cutie patootie. When she was 11, her father died, and he didn't leave a will or anything, so his law partner became Frances's guardian. Did I say she was 11? Because she was 11. That's important. So he's basically her dad for the next several years of her life. She goes off to college. Her guardian / father's former law partner falls in love with her. Weird, but double weird because he's not a law partner anymore. He's Grover Cleveland, President of the United States, and he's like 48 and she's like 21. Ew. So they get married. Wow, Frances. Exciting stuff. Weird, but she was in charge of a lot of firsts. She was the youngest first lady ever to this day. She remains the youngest. 21, that would be very stressful. I was not doing anything responsible at age 21, so good for you, lady. She was also they had the first marriage in the White House, which was exciting. She gave birth to the first children in the White House. Not the first children in the White House, but the first childbirth, you know what I'm saying. She was the first lady to preside over 2 non-consecutive presidential terms in the White House, so that was exciting stuff. And she used her popularity and people's fascination with her super weird romance to do a lot of good things. So awesome, good for you, Frances. The next lady I want to talk about was actually not a first lady, so I'm kind of bending the rules a little bit. She was almost a first lady. This is Alice Roosevelt. She was Theodore Roosevelt's first wife, and he was crazy about her. He was kind of a crazy dude anyway, like torturing small animals to figure out how they work and writing books as a child, and he was just a weird dude, really intense. So when I say he was crazy about her, I mean he was like crazy about her. She died at age 25, so he was still an assemblyman in New York at the time. He had no idea he was going to be president someday, or maybe he did. Crazy. But she died actually 2 days after giving birth to their daughter, who was also named Alice, and she gave birth on February 12th, and then she died on Valentine's Day in his arms 11 hours after his mom had died in the same house. So that was a pretty bad day for Teddy. He didn't talk about her ever again for like the rest of his life. He never mentioned her. He wrote one thing in his diary, and that was it. He wouldn't even call his baby daughter Alice because it reminded him of her. And then he like let her aunt, whose name I cannot remember. I'm remembering a lot of stuff though, so give me a break here. He let her take care of her for the first 3 years of her life until he remarried. That Alice Roosevelt again, she grew up to be kind of a cool lady in DC. She was like a really big deal socialite on account of her famous dad. And she did exciting things like cut her wedding cake with an actual sword and put a tack on a congressman's chair as an adult woman just to see what would happen. It was funny. And she said exciting things like, if you don't have anything nice to say, come sit by me. So she sounds like a fun lady. That's Alice. The last one I want to talk about today is Edith Wilson. This is Edith. This is actually not her when she was a first lady, but when she was young and babely, because that's all I could find on the internet. Sexism. Edith was married to Woodrow Wilson in his second term as president. And then in 1919, about 3 years after their marriage, I believe, he had a massive stroke, just a gigantic stroke that left him partially paralyzed. So instead of being like, oh, what are we gonna do? The president can't function. Edith was like, I can do it. So she stepped in and started screening everything that came towards him, like anything from any secretary at all. She would read it first and figure out what to send his way and what to do with what. She said repeatedly throughout her whole life that she didn't ever make any big decisions because the people hadn't elected her to do that. They elected Woodrow, who's kind of a racist. And I'm not saying that's why he had a stroke, but it can't have helped. She just over and over said that she made no decisions, but a lot of historians today are like, she did though, she really did. So in a way, we've actually already had America's first female president. Isn't that interesting? So like I said, lots of cool women to talk about today. That's just a few of them. I encourage you to Google them, find out more about them and the other really cool ladies, or celebrate however you see fit, like rescue a portrait of a famous leader, or marry whoever you want to, society be damned, or I don't know, put a tack on a congressman's seat. Do whatever you want to do. It'll be fun. I'm gonna go do that right now. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of me shaking because I get really nervous in front of cameras, or talk about first ladies or presidents, you can follow me at Life and Stuff TV at YouTube or listfulthinking.org. Okay, see you guys later. Go ladies!